Oh! What if the African leaders had united and resisted the European scramble for Africa? This is a story of the great resistance, Africa's untold power. Join me through the echoes of the African savannah, where history was never written. In the 19th century was a time of conquest. European nations scrambled to take control of Africa, claiming land, resources, and her people. But what if this day had failed? What if African leaders had set aside their differences and stood together as one? In this episode, we explore an alternate history where kings, chiefs, and warriors formed a united front to resist colonization. What could have happened? How would history have changed? Before the European invasion, Africa was home to mighty empires like the Mali Empire, the Kingdom of Congo, and the Zulu Kingdom. Each had strong armies and vast resources. But instead of uniting, we often fought amongst ourselves. Europe used Africa's internal conflicts to their advantage. Divide and conquer became the strategy. By the time the Africans realized the danger, it was too late. European powers manipulated, deceived, and when necessary, they used brute force to take control of African lands. But what if the leaders of Africa had recognized the threat earlier and formed a powerful alliance? Imagine a world where African leaders saw the threat of the European invasion early and took action. What if they had set aside their differences and fought together? The first step would have been unity. African rulers could have formed a Pan-African coalition, combining military strength, intelligence, and resources to resist the European invasion. Yes, some African nations successfully resisted colonization. Ethiopia, under the Emperor Menelik II, famously defeated the Italians at the Battle of Adwa in 1896. The Ashanti Empire resisted British rule for years. Now, imagine if that resistance had been widespread across the whole continent. Now, without colonization, Africa would have had over a century to develop its own industries, education systems, and governments without foreign interference. Yes, indeed, an Africa free from colonization could have formed a strong federation, much like the European Union, leading to rapid industrialization and economic growth. A united Africa would have negotiated with European powers from a position of strength rather than submission. Trade agreements could have been on African terms, not dictated by Western influence. If Africa had never been colonized, the entire course of world history would have changed. Let's examine some key areas, okay? Yes. Let's say economics. Without colonial exploitation, Africa's wealth in gold, diamonds, and oil would have fueled its growth. Yes, indeed, I believe African nations could have established strong banking systems, industries rivaling even Europe and America. Yes, let's look at politics. A united Africa could have been a dominant political force, shaping global policies instead of reacting to them. The Cold War might have played out differently with Africa as a superpower influencing global alliances. Without the interruption of colonial rule, Africa's indigenous knowledge systems could have evolved into advanced technological innovations. Great libraries like Timbuktu might have continued to flourish, keeping African science and literature at the forefront of global progress. Of course, we can't change the past, but we can learn from it. The lesson here: unity is power. If our ancestors had stood together, Africa's history might have been very different, but the future is still ours to shape. Though the past cannot be rewritten, Africa still has the potential to reclaim its place in the world through unity, strategic planning, and of course reclaiming lost knowledge. This is the way the continent can rise again. What do you think? Let's meet in the comments, my fellow Africans, and let's discuss this. As the river flows, so does your destiny. Epo! 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 Awaken!
What if you could hear the sound laid deep in the hearts of our chosen? Would it sound like silence? Or the pounding of the tom-tom drums buried in the sand? What if the story was ours to tell? Rise where our forefathers fell, the hopes of ancestors seeping through our dreams like a brewing storm from the banks and streams of the night. Mama Africa, can you hear me calling? Can you hear him calling? What